Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name's Ian, I'm Ian the Reader, and today I am back with a book review. I'm a day late. I know that I said I was posting this review on Monday, and I normally post on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, but you know what? Sunday was Father's Day. I'm a father. We're calling Monday a national holiday, so deal with it. But anyway, today I'm here to review Upgrade by Blake Crouch. This was one of my most anticipated books of 2022. If you have not read any Blake Crouch, stop watching this video and go, well, you can watch the rest of this video, but you need to read Blake Crouch. He is an incredible author for anyone, really. Technically, he writes science fiction books, but they are so approachable, so much fun. They're like sci-fi thrillers, and I highly recommend reading his novels. They are just a blast. But enough gushing about his works as a whole. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Upgrade, which is his brand new release coming out July 12th. I was super excited and lucky to receive an ARC of this on NetGalley. Thank you so much to the publishers and the author and NetGalley for supplying me with that. Man, I was excited to get this. I got it back in like March or something like that, and I dropped my TBR and read it, and I am so glad that I did. I have hardly stopped thinking about this book since I read it, and I've got a lot to say. Before we get into the video, two things. First, it would mean the world to me if you would like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Like I said, I normally post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and yeah, you can expect what's coming. Wednesday, I'll have my weekly update, and Friday, I'm doing my 5-star predictions recap for quarter 2 and my predictions for quarter 3. And I'm gonna do like the mid-year book freakout tag at some point. I've seen like 25 billion of them in the past couple weeks, and so I'm feeling the fear of missing out, but I'm probably gonna wait until we get into July. That way I can talk about all of June. The other thing that I did want to talk about before jumping into the rest of this review is that I'm going to spoil some of what this book is about, just like in the setup of it. I'm not going to spoil anything that is not on the cover or like the back cover of the book or the flap or the Goodreads blurb or anything like that. I'm just going to go into the details for that. But if you're like me, sometimes you just want to enter into a book completely blind, and that's actually what I did for this book. I had no idea what it was about, except that it was by Blake Crouch, and I think I might have known that DNA had some aspect of the plot's focal point. So, I don't know if that sentence made sense. You know what I mean, though. Yeah, so if you want to enter in blind, just know that I really, really enjoyed this book. It was such a fun time, and I highly recommend you read it. You can pre-order it now. I'll leave a link down below, or you can wait till release date. I think it might actually be a Book of the Month pick as well. I mean, that's just my prediction, so you may want to wait for that as well. But I am super excited about this book, and you should totally read it. Now that we've gotten that disclaimer out of the way, though, let's talk about what this book is about. So, this book is set in the near future. I think probably, if I had to guess, around 20 to 30 years. I can't remember how far exactly. It definitely says the year in the book, but like I said, it's been a few months since I read it, so I can't remember specifically, but know that it's not that far ahead. But in the world, there has been the technological advancement of DNA editing. We now know how to modify people's DNA to help stop the spread of certain viruses or diseases or what have you. There's a lot of advancements that are good that have come of this, but unfortunately, things got a little bit out of hand. The world that we see in this book is very different from our own, not only because of the technological advances, but due to a catastrophe that took place that wiped out millions of people. The world is devastated by this loss, not only just because of the fact that everyone had to deal with the death of loved ones, but in addition to that, it has affected our economy and the production of things that are necessary to survive in the world, even like meat and things like that. You know, there's just not as much of it, so everything is really expensive and there's a lot more limited supply. It's just a very dark and dismal time, to be honest. Like, things are not broken to the point that the society cannot function, but things have changed a lot. Our main character's name is Logan, and he is very deeply and personally rooted to the changes that have gone on in this world. I'm not going to get too much into that, but just know that he cares very deeply about the state of the world, and he's kind of at a point of wanting to redeem himself and wanting to do something that's going to make a difference. And that work is going and investigating, trying to find people who are continuing to do DNA editing, because it has been outlawed at this point, or at least very, very heavily controlled at this point in the story. So here's the spoiler part that I was warning you about beforehand. Like I said, it's not a real spoiler, it's on the Goodreads description. But what happens is our main character, Logan, is in an accident. There's an explosion that takes place when he's investigating some claim that's going on, and the explosion exposes him to something that begins to slowly alter his DNA. For the better, sort of, but the problem is anytime somebody's DNA is edited, the government wants full-on control of their lives, of what's going on. They want to keep them occupied, or like they want to keep them under lock and key, basically. And so Logan is thrust into this situation out of his control where he's slowly starting to change. Things obviously escalate from there. This is a very epic story in some ways because you get a really huge picture of the world and the society and what's happened and what's going to happen. This is definitely, if I had to say, Blake Crouch's most ambitious novel. Hey guys, Ian from the future here. Just wanted to pop in and say, I, for some reason in this video, referred to Blake Crouch's other books as like the first two or like book 1 and 2. They are not a series. All these books are standalone, so just keep that in mind. Now let's go ahead and talk about what really impressed me with this book, and there's so much I could talk about, you guys. This book is amazing. It is so good. I knew it was going to be good, but it still blew me away in every capacity. I just so much enjoyed it. The first thing that impressed me about the story, though, like I said before, is that it's just so ambitious. In Dark Matter, you kind of have a little bit of a self-contained story in that nobody else really knows what's going on, but the main character does, and it's great, and it's awesome, and I loved it. In Recursion, you have a little bit more of the grand aspect of it, and it's definitely more like world-stopping, trying to help save the world in some ways, and that's really good too. But in the third book, Upgrade, we find that the world has already been through so much before the book even starts. You have a lot of catching up to do, and it's very ambitious, not only the things that have already gone on in the world, but the things that are happening as you start and the things that continue to happen as you go through the story. And on that level, this was just a very grand book, and there were mass things that happened that impacted so many people, not only before the story, but during the story. And I just really loved the way that Blake Crouch handled that. It felt epic without being overwhelming, and I really did enjoy that. Second thing that I loved so much about this book and impressed me beyond measure is the way that Blake Crouch took, yet again, because he does this in every book, but he took a really complicated idea, and it still was complicated, but he made it easy to swallow. He made it very approachable. He made it very much like you understand what's going on. I didn't ever feel lost in this story, and that's something that I always worry about when jumping into science fiction. To be honest, like, as far as like fantasy and sci-fi goes, I definitely lean more into fantasy books just because with science fiction, I feel like there's so much jargon that goes on that I get lost so easily. But this was a story that really felt rooted in the realities, yes, of like the science, but also in like the impact that it has on the main character. Like that's kind of the focus of it. And so I think that it never really got lost in all of the scientific aspects of it, which is why I really do think that Blake Crouch is an excellent author to read if you're wanting to get into sci-fi, because he's very much like a sci-fi thriller author, not really just science fiction. And that bleeds through here, not only in the way that he approaches the scientific aspects of it, but the thrilling aspect. Like that's the other side of this coin, is that this was truly a thriller. Like it was edge of your seat. There was so much action, so much plot, so much like energy in this story. It never lost momentum. Like from the get-go, things were like serious. You know, there was a lot going on, and I loved that. Like Blake Crouch does such a good job of developing these stakes throughout the story that you just like feel the intensity of the plot, and it's so hard to put down. Like I'm a slow physical reader, but I zoomed through this book because it was so hard to stop reading. I think I read like the first like 40 or 50% in one sitting because, man, it was so good, so easily digestible, fantastic. And the third thing that I wanted to highlight about this book is the heart that it has. So in the first book and the second book, there are definitely things that are thrown into the plot that add to the emotional aspect of it, but primarily it's more focused on the action and the twists and things like that. That's where the real impact comes from. And yes, there were twists in this story, and yes, the plot was amazing, but this story has a very emotional aspect of it that I did not anticipate coming into a Blake Crouch novel. There were moments that honestly almost moved me to tears, and it wasn't like this huge sadness of like something tragic happening necessarily. It's just you really start to feel for your main character and also the people around him here who he cares about. There's a huge emotional angle to this story that was not present in Blake Crouch's other books that I've read, and it moved me, like it really did, and that was something that I did not expect. Like, I don't come to a Blake Crouch book to be moved or to get emotional, but this book managed to do everything that I wanted it to and more, in that it entertained me, it baffled me, and it also moved me. Like, that's something I did not anticipate in a million years from this book, and it really did do that for me, and I just loved it. Like, I have been thinking about this book so much, I think more even than Dark Matter and Recursion, because of the fact that it impacted me emotionally, because that's what a truly great story, I feel like, has to do. Because you can have a good time with something, but if it fails to make a lasting impression upon you, then its quality only goes so far, or its value only goes so far. But with this one, I think it managed to do everything that I needed it to, and then a lot more too. So that's pretty awesome. That's all I'm going to talk about the things that impressed me though. Now let's go ahead and talk about the things that I was a little bit disappointed in. And I say a little bit because my issues are very minor. So the first thing is the beginning of the book is a little bit exposition heavy. He tries to do it in a way that is natural, and I think that he succeeded for the most part. But unfortunately, because this book is not that long, it's like 350 pages, maybe, and the world is in a very specific situation at the start of this book, and there's all this technology that now exists that we don't have in our world. You have a lot of catching up to do, and so he does his best to try to do it naturally, but there were moments where I was like, and here's the exposition, and it definitely felt like that. But the good part is that does not last for very long, and like I said, he does do it in natural ways at times, and other times not so much. But if you can bear with that and just get past like the first 10% of the book, you'll be okay. Second thing that disappointed me a little bit about this story was I felt that the climax, there was one twist in particular that I totally saw coming. There are a lot of twists, and that's just like what Blake Crouch is known for, especially Dark Matter. If you've read Dark Matter, you know, like, that book is crazy. And this book was crazy, but I think that there were moments that didn't have to happen necessarily, but did because he was trying to keep up that twisty nature of a Blake Crouch novel. And that bothered me a little bit, but like, just a tiny bit. I don't think it will bother a lot of people. I really do think that this is going to be a very popular novel because it's amazing. It really is. And those are my only gripes. Like, that's it. You know, his books aren't like beautifully written or anything. I'm not going to say that his prose is amazing, but it's a good time. And he manages to pull on your heartstrings at the same time as he's making you like be on the edge of your seat. And it's so good. Like, it really, really is. His books are so intelligent. His books are so powerful in their own way. You know, I'm blown away. Can I say enough about Blake Crouch? Like, no, I can't. He's just too good. And now we're on to my final rating and recommendation. So as far as my recommendation goes, I recommend this book to everyone. You don't have to be a fantasy and science fiction lover to love these books. That's the beautiful thing about them, is that I think that Blake Crouch, it's like he writes blockbuster movies, but as really amazing and thought-provoking books instead. Because these books are super approachable. They're so much fun. Like, I don't think that I ever have as much fun reading a book as I do when I'm reading a Blake Crouch book. And that says a lot, because I read a lot of books, I have a lot of fun reading books, and these are next level. They really are. So if you are new to science fiction, or you're wanting to get into science fiction, or you're nervous or don't want to read science fiction, but this book sounds like fun, give this book a try, because it is an absolute blast, and I really do think that you will enjoy your time with it. Now let's talk about my rating. So like I said, I did have a few gripes at this, but those gripes are very, very minor. Even the ones that I had that I can't deny, they didn't really make that much of an impact on my reading experience. So I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And I feel like I have to rank it as well. So in case you were wondering, oh man, it's really hard though. I think Dark Matter might still be my favorite Blake Crouch. And I don't know if it'll ever be top, just because it was my first exposure to Blake Crouch's works. Oh, but even now, like, over time, Upgrade could take over Dark Matter, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I have to reread both of them. But for now, Dark Matter is my favorite Blake Crouch book, followed very, very closely by Upgrade, and then Recursion's a little bit lower on that scale. But thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you've read any Blake Crouch books, or if you're excited about this book. I hope that if nothing else, I've shown you how excited I am, and have hopefully made you a little bit more excited to read this book. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!